A barbecue for you. Pre-orders are suggested by calling 716-880-7667. I Barbecue for You, Buffalo's new barbecue destination.
Just move the coyotes. Don't do another expansion team.
Right? It would never crossed my mind. So somebody called the house when I was out mowing the grass.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Holy shit, your face is like purple.
Are you still up? Now in your fifth season, it's Buffalo After Dark. Now in your fifth season, it's Buffalo After Dark.
Welcome to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is actually Tuesday night, September 17th, because this guy, to whatever side you're looking at, has a nice little event to go to tomorrow, but we wanted to come at you today, so this way you don't have to wait for us. But, Mr. Hanson, how's it going?
I've been very good lately, Tom. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so I wanted to record tomorrow, but unfortunately I got some errands to run as I am going to an event. I won't say what it is, but just for the record, that's what's going on tomorrow. So I wouldn't be able to be around, and I didn't want to hold off an empty promise. So I figured let's just do it today rather than, tomorrow and just, one day early or whatever.
Yep, of course. And then, basically on my end, just standard week, although I might be getting a new house, so we'll see what happens. I got to go take a look at that at the end of the week, but as long as everything works out well, I'm not going to say exactly where it is, but one place would be the Niagara Falls area, one place would be north of Buffalo. So we'll see what happens, but everything so far is looking pretty good. So that being said, we're going to jump right into it. And of course, if you guys want to give us a call, 929-205-6099, we'll get you on the air. We're live on YouTube and on Facebook. So of course, definitely feel free to jump in. And of course, if you missed last week's episode, go to Spotify because we do have it up. And of course, our friends at I Barbecue for You, we recommend them. So if you want some good eats, definitely give them a shout. But that being said, oh man, it is beautiful when the Bills destroy Miami in Miami. And it was a nice 31-10 win. And I will tell you, that first half, straight up, James Cook was cooking, because to get 3 tutties right out of the gate and put us up front, that was beautiful to watch him.
Cooking, literally.
They had no answer to the run game.
No. And you know what's really ironic, B, is all I've heard from all of offseason to this point now, in week 2, going into week 3, is all we've heard was Buffalo was declining, their Super Bowl window was closing, Josh Allen's not going to have enough weapons to carry them into the playoffs, and all that fun jazz. The Dolphins, quote-unquote, were going to be better than the Bills, yada, yada, yada. So that was all the chatter and the narratives that were going into the season. And sure enough, to prove their point, to let everyone know that the Bills own the Dolphins still to this point where they are sucking their cock, is the Bills went into Miami and bitch slapped them. What was it, 31-10? And James Cook went for over 173 rushing yards against Miami?
Oh, yeah. It was absolutely crazy. And given that fact, I mean, there was absolutely nothing on Miami's defense. Then when you look at Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they did absolutely nothing. So literally, here we are. And of course, the Bills fans know how to party in South Miami, because I ended up seeing some footage live from the Elbow Room about a night or two before, and literally, they totally took over that bar.
Yeah, and you know what? The funny thing about that, too, is 44, if I read it correctly, 44% of the people that were at the Dolphins-Bills game on Thursday were Bills fans. So they traveled pretty well. So that's almost like 1/3 of the stadium was filled with nothing but Bills fans living in Miami at that point. But it's always a fun time when you happen to know that, you basically have, a really good traveling fan base to see the Dolphins play. And it's gotten to a point now where people were just like, well, can Miami keep Buffalo in check? Or are they going to rule the AFC East? And I think for the Bills, to go into Miami is a critical win at that point. Because then you're considering the fact that you still own the division for now. And then on top of all that, Yeah, they say Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill to they try to intimidate Bills fans into saying, they're a weaker team. But if you look at it on paper, the Dolphins literally had nothing. Nothing on the plate.
Yeah, I mean, the second half was completely quiet. Miami had no answer. They did absolutely nothing on the field, and Josh Allen had probably one of his lowest stat games that I can remember since he became part of the team almost 7 years ago. I mean, literally, Allen didn't have to do anything. I mean, what was that, like 130 something yards?
Yeah, he screwed me over in fantasy this week
Yeah,
at my
me too
job.
on one of my other teams.
Yeah, he screwed me over. And no, it's just I think he had like under 10 points the whole night, and I was like really disappointed because like,
Yeah.
come on, Josh, you could have done better. But I understand where he's coming from because the week before they played Arizona, and he had that hurdle on Buda Baker, and he landed on his palm, so his left hand wasn't functionally working entirely. So
Mhm.
they said, you know what? If you need to run, run, but don't do it the entire game. So you know what? I can accept what the Bills did here because what they're doing, and I think what they did is they showed not just to themselves and the Dolphins, but to the rest of the NFL that they run the AFC East.
Mhm.
And they are proving that you don't necessarily need Josh Allen to carry the entire team on your back. You have James Cook, you have Khalil Shakir, you have Dalton Kincaid, you've got a lot of these young talented players. And then the defense, oh my God.
Man,
The
that defense was
defense,
scary this past week.
yeah, it was so crazy that Jamarcus Ingram on Instagram told everybody because of how good he played in the game against Miami, he had to get randomly drug tests.
Nice.
Yeah, the NFL sent him a letter saying, Mr. Ingram, would you kindly please do a drug test? And I'm just sitting there like, and I'm
Random
like,
drug test my ass.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just good. I mean, we really don't know enough
He
about
could
him, but
be. He could be. I mean, the Bills have drafted players and actually brought on no-name players that have actually been really good.
yeah, and Jamarcus Ingram being the one that I genuinely thought was not going to make the team.
Right.
I thought, okay, he's just another practice squad player when preseason came about.
Hmm.
I didn't realize that he made the opening night roster. I had no idea. I thought they were just using him as like a decoy, like because of the obvious turmoil of like
Hmm.
um Kyrie Elam, and then the debate between him and Christian Benford. Everybody was saying, "Oh, the Bills need a number two corner," and clearly they might have potentially found him as
Yeah.
an unsigned rookie. So I'm just saying to myself, if he plays like to this standpoint, if he continues to play like he is, there's a very good consideration that he could very well be a cornerstone to the secondary for a little while to come.
Yeah, very well could be. And hell, even Andreessen that nobody thought, the local kid that walked on, nobody thought he was going to make the team, and he made the team even. So crazier things have happened, to
Yeah.
say the least. But it's nice to see. And actually, speaking of Benford, nice to see him finally have a decent game as well. I mean, he stepped up. I mean, Russo, Miller, of course, those guys. Miller is nice to finally see him coming back into form, but Russo's a freaking animal.
Yeah, I just feel the Bills need that. Like they at least need to add like another edge rusher. That's genuinely how I
Hmm.
feel. Like, yeah, it's nice to see Von Miller go back to form. Excuse me. It's nice to see Greg Russo go into form and all that jazz. But I feel like it's nice to have Ed Oliver as well. But I feel like there needs to be more, and I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a position that Brandon Bean is going to be looking into leading up to the November 5th trade deadline, which, by the way, is the 2024 presidential election.
Hmm.
So there's going to be a lot going on that day. So just be prepared for that.
Oh yeah.
And what's it called? No, but I genuinely think, and I have read something. If you want to hear what I have to say here,
Sure.
is I read a stat. You know how I said earlier that the Bills, where they quote unquote their Super Bowl window was closed because of the, getting rid of Stephon Diggs.
Hmm.
As of according to Sportsline model or our Sportsline model from CBS, they said Buffalo Bills currently have the best chance to win Super Bowl 59 with a 17.7% chance.
Yeah, even Tom Brady was saying that the Bills are the next team, which is kind of interesting that even he would say that. But But no, the
Yeah.
team's looking good so far. And I mean, yes, first game wasn't great. Of course, the first game never is. But for them to dominate Miami the way they did, just like how they did at the end of the season last year, oh, it is beautiful. And how about McDaniel not having an answer and him looking stupid on the podium afterwards, especially when it came to, oh, Tua, my Tua, I'm so sorry you got killed again on the field. Oh, it's concussion number 4. You got to come back and play for us because you got to die for this sport.
Yeah, but before the concussion, Tua looked like ass.
Yeah, he
There was
did. He wasn't throwing the ball well for anything.
no, and Frank Fleming, as you know, Frank the Tank from
Yeah.
Barstool Sports, came out and said that he was a Hawaiian Daniel Jones.
I guess.
You could,
Okay, here's a new job for you. You got to get Frank the Tank on here one of these days.
yeah, good luck. He's an arranged lunatic. I had him for an
Ah,
interview.
okay. Oh
I've
yeah, that's
actually
right. You
interviewed.
did interview him in the past.
Yeah, he's pretty much a deranged lunatic. He does not handle pressure very well, and even if I'm trying to have a civil conversation with him, I'm just kind of like saying, um, what are your thoughts about this? What are your thoughts about that? And he would just bite into his glasses, literally breaking them into half. And he was just no, he that dude's just unhinged,
Liquid death.
legitimately. But
Yeah.
I do though want to
Good
send out
stuff.
my thoughts and prayers to Tua and his family because having a concussion always sucks. But for him, I think the context of that concussion was his fault entirely. He should have known better, being a fifth-year player,
You got
that
to
you're supposed.
slide.
Yeah, he can't slide. It's very obvious, and because he can't do that, he was forced to have a concussion,
Yeah.
and
Courtesy of
and
DeMar Hamlin.
yeah, and that's the funny thing is what comes around goes around. So on Sunday, Ian Rappaport came out and said that Tua Tagovailoa has no plans to retire, and he's already begun seeing concussion specialists and will continue to do so. But there is no timeline as of that time, and Tua will be back, and when he and his doctors deemed to have him healthy and ready. And then today, I believe it was, the Miami Dolphins came out and said that they have put Tua on IR for at least 4 games.
Okay. So obviously Tua doesn't know how to slide. We know
No.
that. And he still hasn't understood the fact that he's Josh Allen's bitch after all these years, only winning twice against him. And on top of that, it's like, Tua, how many times you got to get your bell rung in order to understand that, hey, maybe you ought to hang it up? And that back injury was not a back injury. That was still the stupidest cover up ever.
Well, far from it. But the thing about the Miami Dolphins in general is when Tua made the hit with DeMar Hamlin, yeah, what comes around goes around.
Hmm.
Hamlin actually made a comment about the hit, and he said that the hit on Tua was a quote routine tackle, and then he is praying for the quarterback, and he was saying, "I was just trying to make a routine tackle and trying to get them off the field on fourth down," which
Hmm.
makes sense because Tua at that time did get a first down, but the way he went down, I knew immediately that was a concussion
Oh, yeah.
because. I knew immediately because I had our buddy Chris Millman come over for the Bills Dolphins game last week,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! We don't even know if that's a concussion." I'm like, "Trust me, that is a concussion," because
Yeah.
he was in that fencing position on his
Hmm.
right hand, and I just said, "Yeah, that is definitely a concussion."
Yeah.
Like, like my biggest fear for Tua, generally speaking, as of a football player, and not just because he plays for the Dolphins, is that dude is going to be diagnosed with CTE, and he's
Hmm.
too stubborn to retire. He's going to get himself killed, and it's going to get to a point where if he gets another concussion, Tua's done.
Yeah. I mean, think about it this way. Look at Warren Sapp. Look at Junior Seau. I mean, them guys, I mean, CTE is out there. So it wouldn't surprise me. But then again, Tua still wants to prove to every single person around the world that, oh, he can play. It's like, yeah, we know you can play. I mean, you sucked ass on Sunday, but we know you can play and you're serviceable and all that. And, to make it to the NFL, you got to be able to do something. So obviously you've done something, but at the same time, you got to put yourself first in this case. And you know what? Hey, you got the money. If you need to hang up the cleats, hang up the cleats. And save yourself. Trust me, getting a bell rung like that, I had that happen to me once, and never again do I want to go through that.
Yeah, it's not a good look for the NFL because Tua has kind of become the poster boy for concussions, and that's not usually a good thing to have. But the fact that he's so stubborn about retiring, that's not going to be good for him mentally because if he retires now, he could walk away from the game. The Dolphins would have had to obliterate, one third of that contract that they just gave him. And I
Hmm.
remember the day that he was signed. We were at the Bronx Zoo when you were here
Yep.
for the Long Island week. So
Yeah.
that was, and the funny thing is, we were at the reptile house when Tua got that contract.
I remember
And
you were mentioning something about it. It's like, oh yeah, we're only about what was it like hour three into the 6 hour, 6.5 hours at the zoo or something.
yeah, some strange thing like that. But you want to know something that's even more disgusting about the whole
Mm.
Tua Tagovailoa thing is this. Um, Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, is reportedly in talks to sell up to 15% of the team, which is valued over $7 billion.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah, so do you find this not a coincidence to the fact that, and mind you, he says this the day after Tua was diagnosed with a concussion.
Hmm. Yeah, no surprise at all. I mean, he wants to limit his liability.
Yeah, that's shady dealings in the NFL. I mean, it's not a good look, but again, I feel like the Dolphins have much bigger, problems ahead of them, like much deeper seated problems.
Hmm.
But, again, someone has to tell Tua, no, you could not be playing football at this point of your career. I know you want to play and you worked your whole life to be there, but dude, this is not healthy for you. You need to
Hmm.
retire.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And of course, as we go throughout the show, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the other games in the NFL. But, I mean, at least right now, Bills, they have a little bit of a mini bye week because of the fact that they don't play again on Monday night. So I am looking forward to that matchup.
Against Jacksonville. And by that point, I'm pretty sure the Bills will be okay. I think they're going to be a
Hmm.
little bit more healthier than Jacksonville at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And if we can get a third win, then, hey, that's a great way to start the season, going almost a quarter in already.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's definitive.
yeah, for sure. But of course, if you guys want to jump on 92920560099, we'll get you on the air and let's hop around the NFL a little bit. So, as I say, you mentioned your friend Millman. How is he after that Cowboys ass whooping?
Oh god, dude, he was scarred for life.
Yeah.
Every time I
Uh,
bring it up to him, he's always like, "Well, how many Super Bowls did the Cowboys have?" Oh, that's right, Tua got the belt. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I know. Trust
yeah.
me. I've been on this for much longer than you guy."
Yeah. Good old Carr annihilated them 44-19.
God Almighty, that was an ass kicking.
Yeah, it was. And unfortunately, I had the Dallas defense in one of my leagues.
Ay ay ay.
Oh, that contributed to me losing big time. I think I had negative points.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, but that was brutal. And then how about Baltimore getting off to a bad start with the loss to Vegas, 26-23.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, I have a bone to pick with the Ravens. Number one, what the fuck is up with your offensive line? Why is it hot garbage all of a sudden? Number
Yeah,
two, why
really.
is it that you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, other than J.K. Dobbins, you've got nothing other than Lamar.
Well, J.K. Dobbins is on the Chargers.
Oh, that's right.
Womp womp.
Yeah,
Um,
and he had an emergence. It's like he got me like 20 points on the bench.
yeah, so Ravens, what's up with your offensive line? Why is Lamar Jackson suddenly just running around like a fucking moron? And third, why can't you win the big games when you need to? First, you get your ass annihilated to you by a toe. We talked about it the previous
Yeah.
episode. Just by a toe, you lose. And then you lose to the goddamn Raiders.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
Uh,
God.
and they're
It's almost
supposed to
like,
have this high power offense, and yeah, high power is definitely not the case.
no, far from it. And guess what? They play the Cowboys on Sunday on prime time.
Oh, even better.
Oh God, if they lose that game, they're screwed.
Yeah, seriously. But how about this? It's like, oh, David, it's like Topper. He's like, oh, yeah, Carolina, we're going to do all these great things. We're going to bring in Bryce Young. We're going to do like reinvent the offense. We're gonna have Canales do all this stuff for us. Yeah, you got smoked by the L.A. Chargers, 26-3, and you start out 0-2.
Panthers. I mean, those poor bastards will never get a break. And it's gotten so bad that as of Monday afternoon, it came out that Dave Canales, who is the supposedly quarterback guru, yeah, I wonder who that sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
came out and basically said that Bryce Young will be benched for Andy Dalton.
What does that tell you?
It tells me the Panthers have no confidence in him, and Bryce Young has nothing to work with here.
Yeah. And how much you want to bet that Bryce Young's gonna be calling for a trade sometime soon?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it would be him entirely. I think it would just be the team as a whole.
Yeah.
So, oh, and I forgot to mention regarding to the Miami Dolphins a little bit earlier, it's been said that they actually brought in Tyler Huntley from the Browns practice squad, and he's going to be the QB2 behind Skylar Thompson while Tua's on IR.
Wow. And it's actually, and here's another thing that's interesting. Kareem Hunt is coming back to Kansas City because of the fact that Isaiah Pacheco is going to be out for a while.
Yeah, he has a fibula injury. Yeah, he fractured it. So it's a fibula injury, and Kareem Hunt's gonna come back, like you said, and he's gonna be the new RB1 for the Chiefs until Isaiah Pacheco comes back.
Yeah. Which I will say, it's like when we went there 2 years ago, that's still one of the, that's like the upper echelon of NFL stadiums. I don't care how old it is.
Yeah, the problem is they're gonna be running into a major battleground lawsuit with the state of Missouri and Kansas because the Kansas side of Kansas City is offering brand new land to the Chiefs themselves, where they could just completely just tear everything down and just
Yep.
move the city or move the team to Kansas City, Kansas, rather than Missouri because they want to get a brand new state of the art arena. But people are just like, no, Arrowhead's perfect the way it is.
Yeah, and Arrowhead is a nice stadium. It really is, and we had a chance. Is like if any of you guys watched the Road to 32 episode from almost 2 years ago now, you guys got to see us in the actual press room. You got to see us on the field. I mean, we actually went through the players' tunnel, so that was a fun time.
Yeah, it
And
was.
we got
But
obliterated in the parking lot, and we ended up, and of course we were grilling in the parking lot, which was good, and free beer from other people is always good.
yeah, and next weekend, starting Friday the 27th, as you know, for Road 32, as you know, I am going to Baltimore to see the
Hmm.
Bills take on the Ravens for week 4 on Sunday Night Football.
Yep.
So I am so excited about that game. Like, Britt has always said if she wasn't a Bills fan, she'd be a Ravens fan. And I would tend to agree with her on a certain extent, but
Hmm.
I like the Ravens. I have nothing against them. But just to see Lamar Jackson as a whole, it's just going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah. And then, of course, as we get closer to the bottom of the hour, we still have some stuff we want to get in. But, of course, some of the other games, Cleveland beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 18-13. San Francisco lost to Minnesota 23-17. And CMC is on IR, so that doesn't help them one bit. But,
And Deshaun Watson is busted again, or should I
oh,
say,
sweet
he's being
Jesus.
accused of sexual assault again.
Wow, how many times is this now? Is this like client number 81 or something weird?
No, this is 27, but there is something interesting in his contract. And it said something like this. And it was said that the Cleveland Browns removed a clause from his contract this past offseason that would have protected him in the event of a future suspension, according to Jay Glazer. Per the report, if Watson is suspended again by the National Football League, the Browns could reclaim his guaranteed money. And because of his original contract was contained with language protecting him from avoiding guarantees in 2022 and 2023 that was related to any suspension from prior contact, there was never any language barrier for the 2024 or beyond, nor any language related to a future suspension in his current contract.
Oh, God, Deshaun Watson, you're an idiot.
Yeah, no, this is he's just a shitty person as a
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah, it's called. It's very simple. It's like Deshaun Watson. Just keep your junk in your pants and
Yeah,
keep your
really.
hands to yourself. You learn to keep your hands to yourself in kindergarten for all places.
Yeah, he's just a shitty guy. And you know who else is a pretty shitty guy? Is Jamar Chase.
So let's get to
Yeah,
that. Because his contract talks right now, they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
yeah. There's whining, and then there's whining like a bitch to the refs. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what's it called? So there were two things that revolved around Jamar Chase. The first one being is that Jamar Chase has no plans to negotiate a long-term deal with the Cincinnati Bengals this season and believes that the team misled him during the offseason, according to Adam Schefter. And as you know, if you saw the ending of week 2 versus Kansas City, he went bananas on the freaking ref. And Alex Kemp, the guy who was confronted by Chase, was questioning of a playing produced, quote, abusive language that went far beyond any dissent over perceived missed calls.
Oh boy.
I guess that's what happens when you
uh,
have a sense of entitlement when you're a decent team in the National Football League.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then on top of it, like going through some of the other games, Seattle survives against the New England Patriots, 23-20.
This whole season alone doesn't even make any sense. The Ravens are 0-2. The Bengals are 0-2. The Seahawks beat the
Yeah.
Patriots. I mean, the Bills are right now the favorite to win the Super
hmm
Bowl.
Patriots are
Um,
1-1.
and the Vikings lost to the goddamn, and the 49ers lost to the goddamn Vikings with Sam Darnold.
Right. And then Tennessee loses to the Jets after Tennessee was dominating the first half. So the Jets come back and they win 24-17. The Washington, whatever you want to call them, 21-18 over the Giants, which I will tell you, I would not be surprised if Brian Daboll gets fired before the end of the season, the way that team's going.
Yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if Joe Schoen gets fired because I did mention Schoen holds a bigger blame in the whole ordeal with the Giants than Dable does. But
Yeah.
that's just me personally. And yes, I watched that Jet game over the weekend against Tennessee,
Yeah, same
and
here. They had it airing here in Buffalo, and I ended up watching that.
yeah, Will Levis was not good at all. I mean, he made way too many
hmm
mistakes. Like one being that stupid interception that happened, where he was falling down like a cartoon character, and then a bunch of other things happened.
Yeah,
And Brian
still throws it
Callahan,
up and then gets coughed up.
yeah, and then Brian Callahan lost his shit. He's like, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing? What are you trying to do here?"
Yeah.
So I don't know if Levis just is just coachable or what. I have no idea. But as far as the Tennessee Titans go, I feel like they can be competitive. It's just Levis is just really just a problem.
hmm
I mean, if anything, he almost in a way acts like he doesn't give a shit because the week prior he threw one of the worst throws I've ever seen in recent memory against the Chicago Bears, where it turned into a pick six. It was eerily similar to the one that Tua threw against the Bills not too long ago.
Yeah. And then if you want to talk about an ugly game, how about the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers actually somehow survive against the Denver Broncos 13-6.
Yeah, and I believe they play the Chargers on Sunday. So both teams are 2-0 as of we speak. Somebody is going 3-0, and I have a
Yep.
feeling it's going to be the Steelers.
Yeah, probably in this case. And then of course, the LA Rams, they got destroyed by Arizona 41-10 thanks to Marvin Harrison Jr.'s great first half.
Well, that's not saying much. I mean, congrats to them. But if you
Yeah.
want to talk about really ugly football, how about the very ending of the Monday night game between the Falcons and the Eagles? Oh my
Oh
God.
god, 22-21.
Oh my God.
The
How did
Eagles
Philly blow that?
lost.
All they needed, and I said this to Brett, I said all they needed was Saquon Barkley to make that one catch and the game would have been over.
Yeah.
But no, he ate a pack of Butterfingers probably prior to the snap,
hmm
and they were forced to kick a field goal. And then the very next drive was nothing but chaos at that point.
Yeah.
And the Falcons literally obliterated the Eagles defense at that point. And I said, how the hell did the Atlanta Falcons of all teams go to Philly, make the game as boring as possible, and come out with a good win?
Right. It just, I don't get it. And then on top of it, when you're looking at other games, how about Cincinnati losing to the Chiefs?
Oh yeah,
oh,
that was the one
oh,
where
Cincinnati. Oh my God.
yeah, that was when I was mentioning Jamar Chase earlier about him crying like
Yeah.
a little bitch to the ref. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, you're already an arrogant asshole, all right? You're demanding more money than Justin Jefferson, and then you go to the refs and you start pouting because you don't get what you want.
hmm Right. How about the Bengals fans basically like, oh, who that? Who that nation? And basically is like, yeah, your team's used to be who that.
Furthermore, Bengals fans, your team is in Kentucky.
Yeah, you guys are back to being mediocre as you used to be. All is finally right in the world. Although I will say this, we did have fun in Cincinnati last year. So of course, if you want to relive that episode, go to our Road to 32 page with our side, or go to Hanson's page himself, and he'll tell you all about it. But
Yep.
how about the game of the week though? And this was a great one to watch Sunday night: Chicago and Houston.
Jesus Christ. When you say great, do you mean the amount of shit that Caleb Williams crapped out,
Yeah,
or the fact that Houston looks fraudulent?
yeah, or both.
Well, okay, so my question is, who the fuck made the schedule and said, you know what? We're gonna put a rookie quarterback in play on in front of the whole country against a second year quarterback. Who I understand the agenda was to showcase Caleb Williams, but
Yeah.
holy shit, he is bad.
Yeah, especially when we got into the second half. Oh my God, he went backwards.
Oh my,
I
yeah.
mean, the throws he was making made no sense. And then, of course, coughing up the ball.
If anything, the Bears should have went 0 and 2, not 1 and 1. Because if you looked at the stat sheet from week 1 against the Titans, the Bears had not one offensive touchdown.
Yeah,
All their touchdowns in that game were by the defense.
yeah.
That's really what it was. The same thing applies here, but the only difference is it wasn't Caleb Williams doing all the work. I think it was DeAndre Swift or something like that,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert, whatever his name was. Yeah. So no, the Bears outright suck. They don't have any players on the offense that actually scream anything. Keenan Allen is injured, and he's like
Hmm.
35 years old.
Right.
So the Bears, to me, I feel like are a false prophecy where they're at that level where at least how people treat them, at least at this point, where they're at the point of Kansas City Chiefs level with how obnoxious they have become.
Hmm.
They haven't done shit in nearly
Right.
15 years. And here we are talking about how great the fucking Bears are going to be. Yeah, I hear this every season from Jets fans about how great they are in the spring, and yet when it actually matters, they don't bother to fucking show up.
Right. Exactly. Just like the Miami Dolphins, how they led the division last year, and then they had that epic collapse. The Bills went on the epic run, and we ended up whooping Miami's ass twice in like literally 2 out of 3 weeks.
Yeah, I remember that. And I just said to myself, like, holy crap. Like that fourth game of week 4 last year against Miami with
Hmm.
Stephon Diggs when he was being covered 2-on-1 and then gets a breakaway and he scores a touchdown.
Yeah.
And the same thing here in the finale where it was a primetime game. That was the one that everybody wanted to see.
Hmm.
So, no, in general, though, I just find this very interesting because the fact that the Bears are being hyped up in the level of the Dolphins and the Jets and the Cowboys, I'll even say as a special guest, it really makes you think, are they really desperately trying that hard to hype up a USC quarterback who almost most people who watch football know he's going to be absolute garbage?
Hmm. Yeah, true story. And I will say this: I mean, Nico Collins, great game, got a lot of points out of him, especially in fantasy football. But Stephon Diggs, where are you, Stephon Diggs? It's like you're almost non-existent on the stat sheet, Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna fly. I promise you that. I
Right.
mean, Stephon Diggs, I don't think had anything on the board. Maybe he had like a couple of catches, no touchdowns, no
Yeah.
nothing.
Nothing significant.
So again, going back to my comment from the beginning of the show, and I was saying people were saying, projectively speaking, that the Bills' Super Bowl window was closed because they got rid of Stephon Diggs. And I've said this to you in the past that trading Diggs was probably the best thing to happen to the Bills. And these last two games so far have proven that.
Yeah. When you look at the new players that the Bills have brought on, and you look at the depth that they're getting, and you look at the fact that Shakir's stepping up, and of course others on our team, Kincaid, of course, Dawson Knox. I mean, we know that what their two are capable of. But when you're looking at Shaquille, when he's getting a high number of yards per carry, that's a great thing. When you're turning it into more of a run game and you're letting Cook do what he can do, and when you have all that depth at running back, that also helps. So it's really nice to see how the Bills are coming along and what they're trying to do. And they kind of reinvented themselves in a way where they're not just a pass happy team anymore. And that's a good thing because had it been Ken Dorsey, it'd be like, oh, we need to pass, we need to play hero ball, we need to have Josh Allen do everything. It's like 17 doesn't have to do everything.
No, he doesn't. But let me ask you this though, as a Bills fan, obviously us
Hmm.
both being Bills fans, is do you feel that with Stephon Diggs now out of the picture, do you feel like that the team is more relaxed as of like their approach from like before Diggs, they were trying to find their identity, and then like so far, it's kind of just been like the last 4 years, it's been like very stressful because they're like expectations every year,
Yeah.
and then next thing you know, they get rid of Diggs, and so far, 2 games in, they look like yeah, they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think part of it is like the expectations aren't there anymore. It's like nobody gives a shit about what those are. They're just doing their own thing, and they're doing it well.
You know what? Personally, I don't mind this because I have said in the past, as much as I loved Stephon Diggs, it was time for the Bills to get rid of him, but I wanted them to hold on to him for 1 more year. I
Right.
didn't think at the time that they were going to trade him that quickly. And for them to eat up that 35 mil in the cap, it kind of told me the whole story that I needed to know. And then
Hmm.
Diggs went on to become an arrogant asshole and went on GQ magazine and a bunch of other things and was just talking shit, basically saying, the Bills didn't want to get rid of me, so I had to force my way out. So it's like, dude, go fuck yourself. And since then, I think the Bills took that message literally and ran with it.
Yeah, and they're playing much more like a team finally, which is a great thing, and that's what you want, and that's what's going to get you those titles eventually. So definitely a big plus there. But I was going to say, of course, we're in our second half hour, so if you want to give us a shout, feel free. 92920560099. We're on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time, so we're simulcasting them both. And in the meantime, if you decide, hey, you missed an episode, you want to catch us, go to Spotify. Buffalo After Dark is on there, all of season 4, and so far everything from season 5. And if you want a different take on things, join our friends at Nickel City Crew on their page. They broadcast on Thursday nights. And of course, if you want good barbecue, I Barbecue for You is recommended by Horns and Hooves Entertainment. So, that being said, damn, we got a lot of plugs now. That's not a bad thing. So, but no, thinking about the NHL, big news that happened earlier today, and of course that's Sidney Crosby. Because last week and last couple weeks actually, we were saying, will he stay or will he go? And now that answer is there. 2 years, he's staying in Pittsburgh, and he's basically a Pittsburgh Penguins lifer.
Yeah, so his new contract is 2 years at $8.7 million. So that's about 14, 15 million for within those 2 years. So he's basically a penguin for life. So
Hmm.
I think for Sid, I know the speculation was there because we talked about it briefly last week about how there was rumors of him going to Colorado and I think it was Vegas, Vancouver,
Yeah.
Winnipeg. I know that there was talks of that to happen, but clearly I don't think Sid had any intention of wanting to leave the Penguins. But I know there was talk that he wanted to leave and he was open to the idea of it just so that he can get one more cup. But clearly that's out of the picture because he's basically taking a contract that will guarantee him a Penguin for life.
Hmm. Yeah, and good for him because he's done a lot for that team ever since he came in the league almost 20 years ago, which is hard to believe has been almost that long.
Yeah, and you know what's funny too is a lot of people remember when in the middle of his prime, I want to say mid 20s,
Hmm.
after I think it was that first cup in '09. Remember when Sidney Crosby had that massive concussion issue? I think it was
Yeah.
2011, and people thought that he wasn't going to be able to make it throughout his entire career, and there was
Hmm.
speculation he was going to force to retire because of all those issues.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy looking at it back at it now that he's 37 years old, and the thing that's crazy to me is he's going to be 39 by the time this contract ends. Really think about that. A guy
Yeah.
that was like, he came into the league around the same time Alex Ovechkin did, and both of them are going to be future Hall of Famers. But I think looking back on it, like, I remember all the hype about Crosby,
Hmm.
and I think he's delivered. Because they were saying he was the next great one, the next Wayne Gretzky and all that.
Right.
Did he live up to the hype of Gretzky? No. but I do think that he did live up to the hype of Mario Lemieux because I think
Yeah.
he's now the all-time leader in points and scoring in Pittsburgh Penguins history. I think.
Yeah, I mean he's loved in that city, and I've seen games live in Pittsburgh before, and I mean that whole city just totally loves what he does, and watching him play live a couple times. I mean I've seen him play live against the Minnesota Wild, I've seen the Penguins play live against the Vancouver Canucks, and I've seen them play against the Sabres. And watching Crosby play in person is a treat. I mean, you see a lot of insane stuff, and the fact now that he's up there in age and he can still do crazy things with the puck is just really mind-boggling. It's just really a treat to see. And then one of the things I still want to take a look at some point is I still want to see Ovechkin play at least one game live because I still haven't had a chance to see that. But I have
Yeah.
seen Crosby play 4 different times, and he's just a lot of fun to watch. And actually, I did see Crosby drop the gloves once, so I actually did see him in a rare fight.
That's actually interesting you said that because I've seen both Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin live in the past for many, many years. I have never seen either one at UBS Arena, but I have seen them both play at the Nassau Coliseum.
Hmm.
And I've seen them both in the playoffs and the regular season. Sorry, I'm belching a little bit.
Yeah, you're fine.
Crosby, like you were saying, he's just a skilled player. He's a future Hall of Famer. His legacy will be in there forever. In probably one of the greatest players of all time, no question about it.
Yeah.
But Sid the Kid, though, I remember the one game. I think it was in 2013 when I think it was when in game 3 or 4 against the Islanders. And I remember Sid well actually either scored a game winning goal or he had an assist on Evgeny Malkin or Jerome McGinley against the Islanders in 2013. But I also saw him play in 2019 in the playoffs. The same thing applies with Ovechkin. Ovechkin is I know you've just said that you've never seen him play before in person, but let me tell you something from a personal perspective. Alex Ovechkin is a fucking gem when he comes to watch him. He is lightning quick. He's got a great shot in person. He's just ridiculous. And
Yeah.
I've seen him in the playoffs. So he's just a treat all around to have in the league. And I think it's gonna really be sad, honestly, to probably like the golden age of the NHL
Hmm.
with both Crosby and Ovechkin when both of them are bound to retire.
Yeah, it really would be. I mean, and I respect both players. Honestly, I mean, they have different skill sets. They play the game differently, but they're both super effective at what they do. And I mean, it's definitely one of those things. I hope before the time that they hang it up, I hope that Ovechkin does break Gretzky's goal scoring record. I hope that
Oh
that
yeah.
happens,
I
which
think he's only
is
42 goals.
yeah, very doable. Very doable. And then on top of it, with Crosby, who knows? Maybe he gets one more cup. But even if he doesn't, I mean, he still had a great career, just like Ovechkin had a great career. And now I would say it would be a travesty if Ovechkin did not win the cup, which I'm glad that he finally did.
I think for selfish reasons, I actually wanted Vegas to win the cup in 2018 for selfish reasons. Because as an Islander fan, I don't like the Caps, but I respect Alex Ovechkin. I think
Right.
he's a hell of a hockey player. But I'm just generally saying, like, for selfish reasons, never in a million years did I ever think the Capitals were going to win the cup with Alex Ovechkin. Never in a
Right.
million.
Right. But they did. They did. And you know what? It was great to see him drinking out of that cup.
Oh, absolutely. At least he can say he has a cup.
Yes.
And
And
again,
his name will be engraved on there.
yeah, and again, both of them are first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah, they are. I mean, there's no denying what they've done for the game. Very true. So very good points on that. And actually, real quick before we get into the next part of NHL business, a little bit of the NHL prospects going on here in Buffalo, and they had their fan fest this past weekend. I will tell you, if you did not watch some of the Consta Hellenius highlights, oh man, you are gonna be in for a treat.
How am I supposed to do that if I live in Long Island?
Just go on YouTube.
Fair enough. I mean, if it's available, I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
should be. It should be. Go on the Buffalo Sabres page. Yeah, it should
Hmm.
be. But man, Castellani he is going to be something special.
Yeah, and you know what? I believe that because people have been saying that Casa Helenius is going to make the starting lineup. I said, you know what? If they want to fully develop the kid, let him play over in the AHL in Rochester for a season or two.
Yeah,
But everybody's skill set's very different, and I understand where fans are coming from. But again, the Sabres have a big plate on them right now. They have to make the playoffs.
yeah. There's no question they have to do it. Is this year or they don't. And right now, here you are. You have Coach Lindy Ruff back in the saddle, which I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he runs the training camp and everything. But they have got to do something. I mean, and I will say, if they don't show up and we go like 40 something games in and we have a half-ass record again, then I don't know what else to tell you other than basically Terry would have to sell the team. Kevin Adams would have to be fired. They'd have to completely clean house of like everybody, and then basically start from scratch.
You know me, how much I did not appreciate them bringing back Lindy. I wanted
Right?
someone with new, fresh ideas. I also said that I am not against the idea of firing Kevin Adams because Adams, I feel like, has tiptoed around, building the team. Like he's built some good players in the
Yeah.
prospect pool, but a lot of them just haven't fully developed, and that's really not saying much because you would think that with all these guys, they would all be ready to go. I mean, what the fuck happened to Ryan Johnson? The guy hasn't been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He hasn't
What
been
happened to
around.
him? Yeah, he's been in the NHL system. He's been with the Sabres now for about 5 seasons, and he hasn't not once yet made the
Right.
full time roster.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even think he's been called up that often.
I don't think he gives a shit. That's the problem. I
Could
think he
be.
doesn't give a shit, and I think because of his attitude, and a lot of people have said that he's a very narcissistic human being.
Hmm.
So people have said that Ryan Johnson doesn't want anything to do with the Sabres. He's pulling a Cutter Gauthier, where he basically
Oh boy.
said, I'm ignoring all the calls from the Sabres and things like that. Like, yeah, he's at training camp, but he's not doing the typical, I'll work hard and do what I have to do to make the team
Hmm.
mentality. Like Yuri Kulik, for example, he's doing great.
Yeah.
But as far as, Ryan Johnson, that guy, I do not think, I don't, personally, I think he's going to be one of those people that's going to get traded as at least as bait. That's what I think.
He could be. And he could throw him in a package deal, and Lord knows what'll happen. But it'll be interesting to see how things go as we get closer to the season. But I am looking forward to being at that home opener, though. I mean, that is going to be fun, and I think that building will definitely be a sellout, at least for Lindy Ruff's homecoming. So it ought to be interesting to see what happens.
I would have to think that because unfortunately, I'm going to be seeing my brother in Pennsylvania
Hmm.
when that happens. And we actually do have some breaking news coming out of the NHL,
Okay.
and that is former Sabre Tyler Ennis has decided to retire from pro hockey at the
Ooh,
age of 35.
interesting. So, all right. Well, good career. Nothing great with the Sabres, but not anything horrible either. So,
He was
good
just
for him.
okay. Like he was a fan favorite in the first like 4 or 5 years. And
Hmm.
then I think like 2017 when he got traded to Minnesota, that's where I think he kind of became a journeyman.
Yeah, yeah. But no, good to see him, go out his way. So we got that. Then a couple of other things we want to talk about before we hit the top of the hour in the next 10 minutes. Sorokin's injured again.
Oh God, fucking help me, dude. So
Ilya
the whole
Sorokin.
the whole Ilya Sorokin thing is very interesting, and this report actually came from Stefan Rosner, who covers the New York Islanders on Newsday.com. And he said that Ilya Sorokin suffered an upper body injury during offseason workouts. He could miss a few days of training camp, but there is no major concern outside of that, according to Lou Lamoriello. And apparently, there was speculation that, according to Elliot Freeman, that he was dealing with some mental issues. And I said, well, hopefully he's okay mentally because that's a big problem. So, I mean, now we know fully that that was not the case, with
Hmm.
Sorokin. I'm glad he's okay. So it actually gets weirder. So Sorokin had back surgery this offseason, and according to Patrick Waugh, he said that he was speaking to the media at a charity golf outing and appeared to inadvertently mention the surgery, though Waugh did not answer any following up questions about the procedure. Lou Lamoriello said on Friday that Sorokin did have a quote minor upper body injury and resumed skating, and there's apparently no concern about him missing the start of the regular season. And this came after Elliot Freeman, who made a big fucking deal about it, said that Sorokin was battling something, and Lamorello said that he was shocked about the report and had no acknowledgement of anything that was rumored out there.
What is he doing? Battling something in his ass or something?
Okay, so from what I'm gathering, is Lou Lamorello said, yeah, he's fine. And yet they tried to cover this up by saying, "Oh, he has a mental problem." Because I remember this happened with Robin Leonard when he before he came to the Islanders,
Yep.
and he was dealing with his own mental demons and things like that. That's what people thought was happening with Ilya Sorokin, but apparently that's not the case. He's dealing with an upper body injury. So why weren't the Islanders so transparent about it? Why did it take Patrick Waugh of all people to reveal fully what exactly happened? Like, why did Lou have to cover it up? Is my big question.
Yeah, and Lou's been around the league long enough to know that he doesn't have to cover it up.
Yeah, really. I mean, this is coming from the guy that's really good at his job when it comes to, making trade rumors and things like that. He doesn't let anything leak out to the media, nothing. He likes to keep it as a surprise.
Right, right. So, time will tell how Sorokin heals up, but on the flip side, Philly has a familiar face returning, and that is Wayne Simmons is coming back to Broad Street, and he's actually going to be one of the new hockey operations consultants for the Flyers.
It's an interesting option. I mean, yeah, Simmons is 36 years old. And for those of you who never got a chance to see him play, he played over 1,000 games in the NHL from 2008 to 2023, only scoring under 300 goals, which is 263. He had 526 points in that span, and he predominantly spent their career with the Flyers, but he also played for LA, Nashville, New Jersey, Buffalo, and Toronto. So Simmons has been kind of a journeyman after the Flyers. Not that it was his choice by any means. It was just Simmons is most notorious. Yeah, like he was there. Like, how do I say this? Wayne Simmons was their Milan Lucic. Like, he was their tough guy. He was their grinder. So, because I remember when Lucic was on the Bruins, everybody fucking hated him.
Oh, yeah.
Because of that notorious play on Ryan Miller that basically declined his play from there on out and had no remorse for it. Lucic is kind of just out in the open now. He's nowhere to be seen at this point. Right. Same thing with Simmons. But at least with Simmons, he's going to get a chance to work with John Tortorella, and he's going to be a consultant within everyday operations. So I think for the Flyers, they needed this. They needed another guy that they're familiar with within the organization to kind of just embrace them and say, hey, this is what has to happen. And the funny thing is that he's also friends with Danny Briere, who's currently the GM of the Flyers.
Right. And when you look at it, I mean, Wayne Simmons was one of those tough guys in the league where he didn't take shit from anybody. He would just go out there and he'd throw fists if he had to.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Simmons, I think, was a waste of oxygen on the Sabres, but on the Flyers, he was a completely different player. And if I remember correctly, I think he was the 2017 All-Star MVP.
Yeah, he was built for that team, honestly, just with all the players that they had at the time. I mean, he was just a natural fit for them.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember when he was just a decent prospect on the Kings. Nobody really knew who the hell he was. And then he goes to the Flyers. And I think if I remember, he was actually in the trade that sent Mike Richards from Philadelphia to the LA Kings. And then the following year won the Stanley Cup.
It might have been. It'd be interesting to go back in history and just kind of see what exactly happened at the time. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Yeah. But then, last but not least, the NHL is not done growing because there are going to be potentially 2 new expansion teams coming to the league. And, of course, we got to balance out these conferences.
Yep. Do you know who those 2 teams are?
Tell us. And I hope one of them's not Atlanta, but it probably is.
It is Atlanta.
Fuck. Oh, sweet Jesus.
I love that reaction.
Why did they have to get a third team?
Oh, God, that's priceless. So, Atlanta, and I believe the other one is Houston. There was rumblings of Quebec City, but of course the NHL is muck expansion, muck Canadian dollar,
Yeah. God, why in the flipping fuck did they choose Atlanta over Quebec City when Quebec City actually has a fan base that sells out almost 19,000 in a freaking junior league arena that was built for NHL standards? I mean, come on.
as long as Gary Bettman is going to be the commissioner of the National Hockey League for another few more years, he will not allow a Canadian expansion team, with the exception of Winnipeg, to ever come back into the NHL. Now, unless they get someone else to be the
Hmm.
commissioner, then okay, there's a decent shot. But Bettman just hates Canadian teams, period. Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
But as far as that is concerned, um, I do think that Quebec would be a great city to have as an expansion team. But for anybody who knows, our buddy Adam Fitzgerald hates the idea of Atlanta.
Hmm.
He thinks that America got very greedy with their NHL teams. And
Right.
he's like, we need to get more Canadian teams in here, eh? You know him. He's always
Hmm.
angry about this.
Oh
Like
yeah.
like he's a diehard Leafs fan, but it's like it's gotten to a point now where people are just like, okay, we know about Atlanta. They failed twice, but why do it a third time?
Hmm.
Simple, because the economy got better within that 10-year span in Atlanta and they have more job opportunities. That's the key. And they also, and allegedly, they have a piece of land outside of the city that the Thrashers could play in.
Well, that's what happens when you retrofit or when you renovate an arena sometimes, and they decided it was right after the Hawks actually, or no, it was right after the Hawks ended the season, right before the Thrashers were about to end the season. They're like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and we'll renovate it exclusively for the Hawks and screw the Thrashers. They can go.
It's just funny how everything works out the way it did because Atlanta is just, I don't know. I mean, I think
Yeah,
Atlanta can work for hockey, but it has to be done right. And the NHL within that span has not done a good job with,
right.
with marketing. I mean, the Flames when they were first in Atlanta, they were decent. They weren't great. They weren't the best, but they tried to make the playoffs and they hell made it a hell lot more than the Thrashers did. But they
Hmm.
were losing money, so they at least had a legitimate excuse to be
Yeah.
leaving Atlanta and ended up becoming the Calgary Flames. The Thrashers are a completely different story because Bettman loves that market for some reason. He says we're going to give Atlanta another shot,
Hmm.
and sure enough, they last over a decade, one playoff appearance, and they get swept by the Rangers, and nothing comes out of it. And of course, that notorious story came out about Atlanta Spirit, about that group of businessmen from all across the globe
Yep.
in certain parts of the United States where they're like, you know what, we're gonna buy the Thrashers, we're gonna just dump them out, we're gonna just buy the Hawks. They don't give a shit. So that's
Hmm.
basically what it was with Atlanta Spirit, and that's why the Thrashers had to move. And then, of course, a group of investors from Winnipeg came in and bought them and became the Jets.
It's how it works. So
It's business. But
yeah.
I am curious and I am interested if the NHL were to go back, and there has been talks that the league is going to announce the expansion of Atlanta either throughout the season or in the end of the Stanley Cup Finals in 2025. We really don't know yet,
Hmm.
but there has been speculation that they're going to announce, from the Board of Governors, they're going to expand to two more cities, and obviously one of them being Atlanta. It's the same thing with Major League Baseball. Everyone is talking about. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, sorry, I just misread something. But um, no, they're talking about Atlanta again,
Hmm.
and they're probably going to announce the expansion for 2025. And then I think for the 110th anniversary of the NHL is I think at that point where Atlanta comes in.
Yeah, it very well could be, and it'll be interesting to see how things go over the next like year or so, just to see, exactly what are the two finalists going to be, and what are they going to do in the league, and who are they going to take. So I'm looking forward to it. Even still, I mean, hopefully they can get a team in Quebec City, and hopefully they can get a team out in Portland because that would be a nice little interstate rivalry there. If they can make it happen. So we'll see what goes on, but other than that, it's going to be interesting, especially with the Bills matchup coming up this week, and then on top of it, um, Sabres are getting close to the preseason, so it'll be interesting to see what exactly takes place, how this team gels together, especially with their offseason acquisitions, and then of course a new familiar face behind the bench.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would like for them to make the playoffs, but I feel like that before we get out of here, obviously, is Um, I'm just not very fond of the whole Lindy Ruff story. I've mentioned it several times, and you know me, I've been very displeased about it. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it happens. It happens. We just gotta hope for the best. Is really what it comes down to. So,
Well, it also comes down to for what we have to judge on.
right, right, very true. So, with that being said, I just wanted to see any other things you want to talk about before we go ahead and wrap up.
Yes, and there actually is one more topic, and as some of you know, I talked about it very briefly, and it will be official next Friday. Brittany and I will be on our first road trip of the 2024 NFL season for Road to 32 as we travel back to the state of Maryland as we go see the Buffalo Bills take on the Baltimore Ravens at MT&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. So I am beyond excited about this game. It's going to be a fun one. Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. That's going to be a hell of a game, and I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
Hmm. Yeah, it'll be a fun time for you. So of course, with that, once that video is out, definitely check it out on Bob's channel, and basically it'll be Road to 32 Baltimore edition coming up. So
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
yeah, and then hard to believe we're only about a month away from Seattle.
I know, right? It's nuts.
I know, I know. So we'll be talking more about that as we get closer, obviously. But in the meantime, I just want to say thanks for hanging out with us. We always appreciate it. It's always a fun time, and here we are in season 5. Man, we're gonna hit 200 episodes this season.
Yeah, we're getting there. So I would suspect that we're probably going to hit 200 by Christmas. I would think. Maybe a little bit afterwards, maybe like January, we're probably going to hit 200. So we'll have to come up with something what we should do for that.
Yeah, there will definitely be a 200 episode anniversary special. I can tell you that. There's no question that we're gonna be doing that. Probably be like what we did for 150, where we ended up going an hour and a half, or kind of like what we did with episode 100 back then, or even episode 50. So, big thing is we do it for the fun of it. We enjoy it, and we're glad that we get to interact with you guys and be part of it. So with that being said, of course, we appreciate you joining us as always. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you next time.
Yes, you will. See you guys in Baltimore.